of Marion. And thank you for tuning in early. Saturday morning gospel start time. All time stands at 8:30. We're going to switch over to Studio B and say good morning to you, brother Michael Jenkins.
Good morning to everyone out there. Good morning, Tater. How are you today? What a great, wonderful, rainy-looking Saturday we have. Perfect, right, folks? Don't you love rain? I love rain. The world needs rain. Anyway, sorry we missed you last week, but a lot has transpired since we last got together. And I guess the story of the night is the Swamp Foxes boys team having been eliminated from the state tournament last night in a rousing, crazy game over at Pageland last night. And they had a shot. I was really impressed with the way they came back. They were trailing by as many as 14 in the first half. The offense could not get moving, and they weren't making any shots, and they were turning the ball over, and they were committing fouls. They were basically digging themselves a hole that they came out of. See, it's one thing to dig a hole for yourself. It's another thing to dig a hole for yourself and dig yourself out of that hole and put the other team in there. And that was the way it was going last night. And Marion took a lead in the third quarter and led for most of that period. It went back and forth in the fourth period. I thought it would come down to one or two possessions to determine the outcome of this game, and as it turns out, it did. But the game got into overtime. I felt like when Marion took the lead, and they got it up to as much like 4 or 5 or something like that, I think if they could have increased it just 3 or 4 more points during their resurgence, then they would have had a good chance of holding those guys off. But they got one guy for Pageland. I don't even know his name. All I know is this guy was unbelievable last night. Marion could do nothing with him. You know, I was screaming all night long, keep this kid out of the paint. It's not like this was a big guy. You know what I'm saying? This was a little guy, maybe 5'7", but he was built like a stump. Strong, outstanding ball handling, and the ability to basically go wherever he wanted to on the floor. And he did that all night long. And eventually he was the reason that they won. Now, and I hate to harp on referees and officiating, because I got some friends out there who are referees and officials. When I tell you the refereeing last night was horrible, folks, I cannot overestimate how bad it was. You had this one really big guy there who it seemed like his appointed mission was to make sure he didn't let Marion win. I'm serious. He called everything and things that really didn't even happen the whole game. And that was a big reason for them losing. But, you know, you can't give the refs all that grief because the turnovers for Marion last night were really just basically over the top. I mean, there were some turnovers that just should have never happened. There was too many of them. And when you lose by 6 points, 7 points in overtime, that tells you that that was a winnable game. They also missed a ton of shots, too. Layups galore. So, they are no longer in the tournament. But my hat's off to them because the effort that they put forth to come back, that showed a lot. Because they were at a point when they were down 14. You know, that's the point where kids sometimes give up. But I have to give DJ credit for not letting him give up. And because of that, they were able to make a serious push to win this game last night. It was a long ride home. But my hat's off to them. They had a good season. They ran into they had some bumps in the road. Really, they had some bumps in the road that ultimately proved to be their undoing. Now we can go back to when basically Marion's season went one way when it could have gone the other. And I think we can go back to the game against whatever the school is down at the beach. If they had won that game back in December, then I know hindsight is always 20/20, but they could have had a home game, which would have, probably been very, very important for them. Would have been very important. But they didn't get that home game, and they had to go on the road. And they won their first game on the road. And they were this close to winning their second game on the road. But nevertheless, it didn't happen. And the Swamp Foxes season is over. Charles White is now on the other side of his high school career. I see where he was being recruited by Francis Marion. Why not? He's an outstanding player. He's had an outstanding career. So, good season for the Swamp Foxes. Good morning, Mr. Carl Brantley. How are you doing today, sir? Ms. Hemingway, good morning. My biggest supporter, Alice Brunson. Good morning, Miss Alice. And one of my other biggest supporters, Ms. Pamela Owens. How are you doing today as well? Now, Mullins, let me take a look here real quick at how this thing whittled down. Yeah, Marion went on the road back on the 16th, and they beat Edisto 43-42. I think that game was in overtime as well. Corey Davis, what's up? Good morning, Mr. Terrell Pinckney. What a night of basketball, huh? And so they beat Edisto, which set them up for last night's showdown with Central. 78-73 final in overtime. Folks, you talking about a winnable game? You talk about a few unturnovers here, a few there, and this is all different. So Marion has a bunch of kids coming back next year. I know that they will learn from this whole thing here, from this loss last night. But I like the way they handle themselves. They did not let themselves get run through. And they had Central pretty shook there in that second half when they gut punched them and took the lead. The crowd got real quiet. Good morning, Mr. Corey Davis. I see you shadowing me all the time. You're all over it, buddy. Now, for Mullins' part, auctioneers last night ran roughshod over my home folk from down in Santee. The Lake Marion Gators came to town. They hadn't been to town in many years. The last time they came, my little cousin put on the block party against Mullins and beat Mullins that night. There was no such luck this time, as the auctioneers basically, they rolled over these cats, man. Let me see that. What's going on? Let's see what auctioneers. Hold on. No, this is not it. This is the girls. That's not what I want. But basically, they ran roughshod. If I'm a little bit slow today, it's because I'm a little bit sleepy, because I didn't get to bed until about 2:30 this morning. When I come home from games, I'm all wound up, right? And no matter what time it is, it's always going to take me 2 or 3 hours to get to sleep. So I figured I might as well scribble something on a piece of paper here to have this morning to use as a guide, because my brain's not working 100% today. And I'm glad I did. Sebastian Page, they tell me, Austin Lawton, bro. I didn't tell you, Sebastian, that this young kid, I remember him when he was just a little tiny boy. His uncle is my best friend. And I remember when he was very small, my best friend had a driveway there with a basketball goal, and he was out there showing him some things when he was about 5 or 6. His uncle played for Tennessee State University. He was a teammate of mine at Roberts High School, the JVs, and he was killed. He was shot by a police officer in Utahville several years ago. Well, Lawton came along and played for Lake Marion. It was a dominant force for them. And he was just a little boy back then, but he shot up to 6'8". And it made me feel really good to know that he and Alex Brown, I'm going to say, that they had a relationship because they played at Claflin. And he told me he's in touch and they're friends. They've been friends for years. I was like, wow. They played against each other in Mullins back in the day. But he told me, you coming to the game tonight? And I told him that I probably wasn't because I was already up in Bennettsville and I had seen Mullins earlier in the week. So I thought I may have wanted to see Marion last night. And that was why I went. Well, I wasn't here last night. But the Auctioneers now move to the 3rd round. That's the state quarterfinals. And they are one step away from going to a state semifinal. So they find themselves in a very admirable position right now. The next game will be a home game too. The final score last night was 73-45. Mullins Auctioneers all over Lake Marion High School. So the thing about being in the position that Mullins is in right now is that you got 3 home games. And in the case of anybody from the PD, the lower state being in Florence now, kind of like, seems like every year now, why is that not 4 home games for Mullins? It really is. Because the Civic Center would be a home game too. Maybe even a bigger advantage for Mullins than being in their gym. Because there are going to be a lot more people there. They're going to have a lot more support if that were the case. You know what? Let me take a quick look at the brackets here real quick because I got about 11% charge left on my tablet. And I need to get everything out of this that I can before it says bye-bye. So looking at the 2A boys bracket, this is what we got right now. Mullins will get a visit from Hampton County. And Hampton County is, they're a pretty good team as they come to town. And Mullins going back, they beat Academic Magnet 61-51. They beat Lake Marion 73-45 to advance to the 3rd round Monday night against Hampton County. Now, Hampton County could be kind of like an example of what a combined Marion County school would look like. They combine, I think, Estill and Wade Hampton. And so here they are. And they're usually a good basketball team. They've been a good basketball program for a long time. Michael Davis, good morning. How are you? Miss Sharika, did I see you from a distance at the Mullins game the other night? I think I did. So on the bottom of that bracket, this is what we got. Atlanta Collegiate played Philip Simmons last night. Philip Simmons beat them up. Marion got nipped by Central of Pageland. So those two, Central versus Philip Simmons, is up next. And as I said, the other side is going to be Hampton County versus Mullins. Looking at the upper state, High Point is now in the quarterfinal round. They will play against Andrew Jackson, who's been playing well. Andrew Jackson has been in the mix for a long time, almost every year. And here they are again. Clinton, they rolled by beating Saluda, and they're going to face the winner of American Leadership, who beat Buford, and Chesney, who beat Strom Thurmond. There's a lot of other action going on around here this week. A lot of local teams doing well. And we have to look no further than over in the single A's, where I was told last night that it was a real classic play between rivals, Lakeview and Latta girls. And Latta won that game. They nipped them, eliminating Lakeview. And I'm told that Latta will face off in a quarterfinal against Greensea, Floyd, and that's going to be on the 23rd, which is Monday. So, looking at the, let's see. Okay, the 2A girls, Marion girls are still in it, and they play today. In fact, I plan to go up to Chesterfield today. Told my grandsons I'd take them. Hadn't seen many games this year. It's a matinee, a 4 o'clock game. So I think I can get them over there and get them back home before dark. So Marion girls, and really and truly, you have to really take your hats off to them and the march that they've had so far. It's been pretty good. They kind of went on a little roll toward the end of the season, and they just kept rolling. And now they find themselves with a record of 17-10. That's impressive. They did almost as well last year, about as well last year, but I think they might have lost in the first round of the playoff last year. So, this is what the Swamp Fox girls have done in the last few games. They won their last 4 in a row. They beat Manning 45-37. They beat East Clarendon 65-39. They beat Lake City 51-40. And in their first outing in the playoffs, they beat Whale Branch 50-41. As I said, this afternoon, they will face off against Chesterfield County, and that game will be played at 4 o'clock. Give yourself enough time to get there. The turnout last night down in Paisley for the Swamp Foxes was pretty good as well. But you've got other teams like Dillon. Let me take a look at the 3A. Maybe we'll just stop right here and take a look at it. Oh, by the way, I went over to Wilson this week. Check out the Tigers and Bishop England. And I went primarily because I want to see Jaden play. So, I got to see him play. He played well. And Wilson got an easy win. Josh Leonard was, the guy as usual. By the way, he was also Player of the Year. There's a lot of awards that I want to talk about, but I'm not going to talk about them today. So, let's see. Wilson beat Bishop England 60-35. They will face off on today. They will face off today against Hilton Head, looks like. And then you have Darlington and Bluffton facing off on the other side of that bracket. Crestwood is still in it. They beat Lower Richland 66-51, and they will now face off against a very tough, perennially tough North Augusta group, who's always seemed to be in the mix lately, girls and boys. Now, Gray Collegiate, our friend Dion, with the Mullins connection, they beat South Florence up. And when I say it beat them up, they beat them up. They beat them 82-39. You know, I think Gray is playing with a little sense of, with a little chip on his shoulders. Good morning, Miss Dolores Williams. How are you today? Tyreek Nolan, how are you, buddy? I think they're playing with a little chip on their shoulder. They're like mad at the world because they don't feel that they've been treated fairly. They think that they've been judged by a different set of standards. And maybe they are. Maybe they should be. But I know Deion's a good guy. He's a hard-working guy. He's a winner. I mean, he's got more state championships than a bunch of people put together. Then you got the Dillon girls, who are just rolling right now. Let's see, Dillon girls, 3A. Okay. So Dillon girls they beat North Charleston 56-26 in their opening game. Excuse me. They will play tonight. It looks like it's either Silver Bluff or Orangeburg Wilkinson. So it looks like they'll play against Orangeburg Wilkinson. Dillon is playing very well right now. Dillon is primed. And they got two great players over there, along with a mixture of some others that are just a problem. Treasure is the leader of that duo. And she and the other girl play very well together. And, hey, they're going to be a tough out, too. 8% left. Okay, Wilson girls got beat. And they got beat by Gray Collegiate. Gray Collegiate girls. Eliminated. Wilson won their first game against Colleton County, beat them 61-39. Gray Collegiate, who had beat Brooklyn Casey 58-39. They met, and Gray came away with the 48-45 win. You know, when you think about schools like Bishop England, do you remember back in the day, Bishop England was like dominating, like 2A. Nobody could get past them. Marion girls did manage to beat them 1 year. And that was down in Charleston with, you know, Candace and Janika and that whole crowd. But Bishop England has now been moved up. And they've been moved up to, I think to 4A. They went from 2A to 3A to 4A. And now they seem like they've lost their superpower. I don't know if you guys have heard about all the goings on in Columbia with the assembly and them wanting to do away with the high school league. I gotta pause for a minute because y'all don't have nothing else to do. With all the stuff that's going on around the state, you got nothing better to do than try to run high school sports in this state. Why? I'm willing to bet you that half of those guys in the assembly, in the state senate who want to change this thing, all got their kids in Skeezer. I'll bet you money. Yet you want to control the high school league. But your kids don't even go to the school. I'd watch those cats, man. So they want to put together a panel to run the league. They're gonna run the league. What do they know about running high school sports leagues? You can't even do your job in the Congress. You're doing nothing, but you want to make this an issue. Jerome Singleton, I think, has done a fine job. I think that these people think it's a lot easier than it actually is. When you talk about a guy who's over every school in the state, every public school falls under him. Every public high school falls under him. Think about what that number is. when you multiply it by their fans, that's a lot of people he has to satisfy every day. Every day. And you know that every day somebody's not going to be happy with him. He's always caught flack from these people. And now they want to actually take away the livelihood of everybody in that organization. What is this? I think they should leave the high school league alone. Okay? I'm sure a lot of the anger or whatever has to do with somebody's school didn't get classified right. Oh, we should have been classified there. Or it's wrong for us to be classified here. Get over it. You got work to do as far as helping take care of the people as a representative. Now you want to get into high school sports. Man, y'all need to stop. Just stop it. Hey, it's going to be a big week coming up. I'd like to see Marion girls, and I think they can. I think they can pull out a win today. Terrell, you know what? Terrell said, I think if he steps down, they'll leave it alone. So this is about something else then. This ain't about what they're saying it's about. I agree 100% with you, Terrell. They don't want Jerome Singleton, a black man. I remember when he was a protege, when he was coming along before he was actually commissioner. I forgot the name of the other cat that was the boss over him. But everyone kind of assumed one day Jerome would take over and be that guy. And he has been. I think it was a brilliant move, what he did during COVID, when he brought the state championship to Florence when they had conflicts up there in Columbia. I think it was a brilliant move on his part to make Florence Civic Center the semi-private home of the lower state. The man has done good. But, being a black man, it gets rough. And I'm glad you said that, Terrell, because they don't like being held accountable, in my opinion. Yeah. But, we'll have to see. We'll see what these guys do. We'll see if they, make this a life's mission and get this man fired and fire the whole organization. Because that's what they're talking about doing. This thing has been around for a long time. I have patronized these tournaments and stuff for years and years. I think it's fine. Now, as far as the other background stuff with the realignments and the this and the that man's job is not easy. And apparently, neither is the legislatures, because they ain't doing it. But I think that's all the time I have left. The lower state is next week. We'll have to. It should be interesting. It always is. It will be this time as well. Mr. Raymond Foxworth, I saw your post last night. You were talking about what a game that was with the Louder Vikings and the Wildgators, Lady Wildgators of Lakeview. How good was it? And I thought that it would be because I posted something about it earlier in the day. Miss Michelle Keys Gibbons, you're still having fun, and those girls are still looking good. Keep us posted as to what is going on with the Dillon Lady Wildcats, because inquiring minds want to know. Anyway, folks, that's all the time I have left. Be back next week with... Well, I won't be back next week with more. Oh, will I? I might be back next week with more, depending on what time the games are that I want to see at the Civic Center. So I could very well be here next week. at any rate, you'll be able to catch me over there. So if I can rustle up a couple of press passes for me and my son, then we'll be in business. In the meantime, I'm out. Peace.